Welcome back to the Double Leg. I'm one half of the show, Hey Jai Picks. The other half of the show, The Parlay, joining me in to break down some Noche UFC. Let's get it. We got 11 fights to break down for Noche UFC. This is the Mexican Independence Day card. Not in Mexico, it's in Las Vegas, Nevada, at the T-Mobile Arena. And we are going to break them all down. We're coming off a hot card, UFC 293. What do you think about the card overall? 11 fights. It's not the biggest card, but you get a title fight on a fight night. Headlined by, of course, Alexa Grasso and Valentina Shevchenko, the rematch. What do you think of the card overall?
Yeah, you don't see the title fight on the fight night cards too often, but there's some good matchups on this card. There's some good prospects on this card, but you can tell towards the end, these last few weeks, they're just trying to scrape together fights in any way possible. I mean, bringing in Mann after getting flatlined by Bruna Brazil on the Contender Series last year to fight Josephine Knutsson, who won on the Contender Series a few weeks ago but didn't get a contract. Bringing in Charlie Campbell versus Dominic Reyes, his little brother Alex Reyes. It's just some interesting matchups, but towards the top of the card, there's some good ones.
Oh my goodness, so many cancellations on this card, like an unbelievable amount. The fact that we're still left with 11 fights is, I would say, a gift. But then you look at the bottom of the card, like you said, and it's like it's dang near LFA level type fights. But Either way, they're fights and they're free. They're getting a title fight for free, or at least if you have ESPN Plus. But yeah, let's get into it. We're going to break them down, all 11 fights, give our predictions and breakdowns. But if you want the bets, you can join the Double Leg Premium. The link is in the description for that. That's the official plays. These are just in our early leans early in the week. And sometimes it changes, sometimes it doesn't. But either way, let's start it off with the main event, the flyweight championship of the world in the women's division. Alexa Grasso, the champion, coming in at plus 135 against Valentina Shevchenko. The challenger, still coming in as the favorite at minus 150, but a lot less than she was in the original fight. Over under 4.5 rounds, minus 140 for the over, plus 110 for the under. You see the 4-1 in her last 5 for Valentina. The one loss, of course, to Alexa Grasso. 35 years of age for her, 30 years of age for Alexa Grasso. And 16-3 professional record for her. Her losses come to some pretty decent competition. Carla Esparza, Tatiana Suarez. And then all the way back in 2017, Felice Herrig was not that doesn't age the best. But either way, those other 2 losses aren't too bad. She had the 5-fight win streak that she's on right now and dethrones arguably the greatest flyweight of all time for women's MMA. Not many people are going to argue with that. But, I mean, the line back then was pretty wide. I mean, Valentina was like minus 900. And it's all the way down to minus 150. So it was a close fight, I would say. I watched it back literally like 3 times today because it was really fun to watch. It was really high level. It was fun to dissect that fight. And it was a lot closer. Obviously, Grasso got the 4th round submission win. Valentina was having some success with the takedowns. Grasso was having some success on the feet. But overall, I mean, it was a chess match. Like, I'm interested to see the adjustments these ladies make in this next fight. It's going to be a close one. What are you thinking?
Yeah, it's tough. Like, there's a few different ways I've tried to look at this. And, I don't know if it was a bad performance and Alexa Grasso was just on top of her game that night, or if Alexa Grasso really is that good at Valentina's level. Because you look at Grasso's past fights, she submits Valentina Shevchenko, and then she submits Joanne Wood. Those are her only 2 finishes in the UFC. Everybody else is by decision. Jeon Kim, decision. Macy Barber, Viviane Araújo, even like Randa Marcos by split decision years ago. Like, she's not going out there and finishing a lot of girls, but like she did to Valentina. So it makes me think maybe Valentina just made that one mistake, put herself in trouble and got finished there. And on the other side of it, I look at Valentina. Yeah, she's been this dominant champion. Like you said, maybe the best flyweight female fighter we've ever seen. her last 2 fights, Tyler Santos, who just got beat by Erin Blanchfield, she went to split decision with her, and a lot of people would argue that Santos won that fight. Then she gets stopped by Alexa Grasso. So another part of me makes me think that maybe Valentina is kind of on the back end of her career, and maybe she's not quite as dominant as she used to be. And maybe some of these girls like Alexa Grasso are at that level now that she's at in this point in her career. I do think watching the fight back, like Valentina did have some success on the feet. Like she wasn't by any means getting beat the whole fight, or Alexa Grasso wasn't really running away with it by any means, but she did put herself in trouble and ended up getting finished. So I do think, though, this could be one of the only times you ever get Valentina Shevchenko at -150 or even under -200. Like there's not a lot of instances where you could say, hey, I got Valentina at this price. So that's enticing. And on the other hand, if you think Alexa Grasso is this level of fighter and can beat girls like Valentina consistently, then plus money on her is not a bad thing either. I do think, though, Valentina, having taken that loss, fought her once, it's going to be hard to beat her 2 times in a row. I think Shevchenko is just one of those fighters. She's kind of Amanda Nunes-esque, like dominant her whole entire career, takes a loss to Pena, and then comes back and then beats the breaks off her for 5 rounds. I don't know if Valentina is necessarily going to win dominantly, but I do think Valentina is probably the side that gets it done here.
Yeah, this is just like an unreal line movement because Valentina's only been under -200 against Amanda Nunes, and she was an underdog to Holly Holm. But other than that, like those are the only 2 fighters that she's been under -200. So I guess it would make sense because she just lost, but at the same time, she was -900. But that just like an all-time mess up from the books? Because even if you watch the fight, you're like, okay, this girl is not a -900 against Alexa Grasso. So if we're talking like betting lines, like you said, like you're getting great value on Valentina. Rarely are you ever going to get her at this price, but she might be on the back end of her career, and it might just be Alexa Grasso's time. I watched that fight, and I see the in-fight adjustments from both ladies. I just don't know how they're going to come out this fight, because even Grasso is an orthodox like boxer, and then she comes out against Valentina, and she's southpaw. She has a lot of success out of the southpaw stance, and that really messed with Valentina. But then Valentina was able to make adjustments going for the takedowns. When Grasso would overextend, she'd shoot for the takedowns. She had a lot of success on the ground. And then Grasso makes some adjustments to stuff some takedowns. And then Valentina's forced to strike with her. She makes that one mistake, and Grasso submits her. So I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen to this one. Because there were so many adjustments throughout that fight that they could go out there with completely different game plans and just look completely different. So I think Alexa Grasso wins and pulls this off, but I don't like the price. Like you're getting like barely plus 140, 150 against the greatest flyweight of all time, Valentina Shevchenko. I don't think it's enough. I don't know. I mean, if you got it at like plus 200, plus 250, I could see it a little bit better. But at this point, I feel like if I have to bet on it, I got to take Valentina at that price. But something tells me like just lay off, because you're still getting Grasso. Or I still think Grasso probably wins. Like she looked really good against Valentina, and the way that she fought her was really smart, because Valentina's a great counter striker. Alexa wasn't like trying to overextend on anything, and she was honestly trying to counter strike Valentina, which kind of frustrated her a lot. So I think Grasso gets it done. I just don't like the price. That's basically what I chalk it up to.
Yeah.
A co-main event, a welterweight bout. Kevin Holland coming in at plus 120 against Della Maddalena, sitting at minus 150. It's going to be a great fight. Over under 2.5 rounds, plus 115 for the over, minus 145 for the under. And we're getting this is a banger. I mean, Kevin Holland fought like a little over a month ago. So I mean, he's jumping right back in there. Della just fought fairly recently as well. Holland, 30 years of age. You see the frame there, 6'3" for Holland, 81-inch reach. Della, 5'11", 73-inch reach for him. I mean, big difference there. Both guys great on the feet. Kevin Holland got great stand-up and a great submission game. He's been working a lot on the wrestling. Don't think he's probably going to have to, use the defensive wrestling here against Della. But Jack Della's hands, that boxing, everyone knows it's really slick. He showed a ability to battle back after losing that first round against Basil Hafez in the fight at the Apex last time out. That was July 15th, so it's been about 2 months. It's going to be a great fight. And this is probably going to be the question of the week. Are you on Jack Della or are you on Kevin Holland? What are you taking?
Yeah, man. Okay, so first I want to start off by saying Kevin Holland is the real BMF of the UFC. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care about the losses, nothing. This dude's fought 20 times if you include the Contender Series fight since 2018. Like, that's 5 years and 20 fights. Nobody else is doing that. He's taken on dudes like Khamzat Chimaev. He's taken all these fights, and some of them, they're not really the best style. Stylistically, they're not the best for him. So I applaud him on that. He'll fight anybody. He's confident. He's not going to fear Jack Della like a lot of people might going in there, fearing that striking. That jab's hard to deal with. And then for Jack Della, I mean, the last fight that he won against Hafez kind of brought him down to earth a little bit. Like, he showed that he's human. He can get taken down. He can, he's defensively, he can get hit a little bit. And, he did show a lot of heart, though. Ended up pulling out the win. But I just think against a guy like Holland, who's 6'3" compared to Jack's 5'11", like the jab, like your best weapon on the feet is going to be a little harder to land than it normally is. And for Holland, he's a good counter striker. He hits hard. He fights long too. And, as he showed in his last fight, if he gets a hold of the neck, he's super crafty with his chokes, Dar's chokes, guillotines, all of that kind of stuff. So, as far as who I'm going to pick for the fight, I'm going to go with Kevin Holland. I think that he's game enough to go in there and just kind of not respect Jack's power. And I think it could frustrate Jack that he's not able to hurt Holland or, land that jab as often as he wants to set up his other shots. And I think he'll be on the receiving end of some of those big right hands from Holland too. Because if you look at Holland's last loss against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, yeah, he broke his hand. The fight gets stopped in the 4th round, but he was doing some work early to Stephen Thompson. Like, he fought really well. And Wonderboy is one of the best strikers, we've seen in the UFC in a long, long time. So Kevin Holland can strike with the best of them. He's going to be in there. I mean, it's going to be a tough fight for him, but I just think all things considered, he might be the side here, especially what are the odds right now? What did our page say?
Plus,
is he still he's still a slight dog. I mean, I could see money coming in on him as the week goes on too, but I'm going to pick Holland here for my pick.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one. I can't wait to watch this one. But I think you got to go dog or pass in this one, which is like, it's just kind of like a prove it moment for Jack Della Maddalena. Like, he's looked so good. He had a battle of a fight against Basil Hafez, which, all things considered, I mean, he had 2 weight cuts. It was like his 3rd fight that he had to pick up. It's just like, he's in the States. He wants to fight. Here's a guy in Basil Hafez who's durable, has great takedowns and grappling, and was able to go in there and just be a dog and lose a split decision to a tough guy against Jack Della Maddalena. So, I mean, you can't really blame him too much for that. But, I mean, the level of competition before that, like Randy Brown is a solid opponent, but he's not top 15 level. But then Danny Roberts, Ramazan Amir, Pete Rodriguez, like, those aren't very great guys. Angelosa, he went to decision with Angelosa on the Contender Series. Angelosa's durable. Kevin Holland's durable. He's only been technically knocked out once, and that was just with the hand injury. He's technically never been knocked out, but he had to pull out of that fight because of the hand injury against Stephen Thompson. So I honestly kind of think this could be like a 3-round war type fight because both guys are pretty durable. Both guys like to throw. And I would expect both guys are going to be ready to get hit. A lot of times when you get a knockout, it's like you're not ready for it. And I would expect both guys are knowing what they're getting into going into this one. So I think it probably goes to a decision, which is it's going to be a sweat if you're watching it because they're going to throw hands. But I think it probably goes to a decision. I think Holland could snatch it. He's going to have the reach advantage, which is going to be a lot to overcome for Jack Della. He's got to get on the inside. I think Holland's just had that a little bit more experience as the dog. It's probably the side that I got to go in this one. So I'll take Holland for the pick.
I also think too, this could be that wiry style of Kevin Holland, who's 6'3", long, and just fights just chaotic at times. I think that could be part of Jack Della Maddalena's downfall too, or an opponent that he struggles with. Because if you look at Jack's opponents where he has a lot of success, Pete Rodriguez, Danny Roberts, Ramazan, and I mean, these guys aren't really known for their movement and good head movement and just chaotic style. So, yeah, I don't know. It's going to be super interesting.
The question is, does Holland like shoot a takedown? Like, I don't expect him to, but what are the chances? Like, maybe he's definitely got the better BJJ.
Yeah.
But I just don't really, I wouldn't count on him to like use it unless he's in some type of scramble. So
could be on that submission kick after the Chiesa snatch when he snatched that neck.
I mean, I would love to see it, but I don't really have a lot of confidence that he goes out there and does that. But he's the pick for me. A bantamweight bout here. Raul Rosas Jr. back in action at -750 against Terrence Mitchell, coming in at +475, over under 1.5 rounds, +220 for the over, -275 or the under. That under is steamed. We're getting a Terrence Mitchell fight. That's why you're seeing that. 33 years of age for Terrence Mitchell, 18 years of age for Raul Rosas Jr., 15-year age gap. See the reach there for Mitchell, 74-inch reach, 67 for Raul Rosas Jr., 7-1 his pro career. Coming off his first loss. We'll see how he bounces back. Hopefully he looks good because he's a big favorite in this one. Maybe getting a little layup here against Terrence Mitchell, who, I mean, you can look at the record and you see 14-3, you'd be like, all right, this guy's pretty solid, but all of his wins are just straight cans. Alaska regional scene. We talked about this when he fought Cameron Simon in his debut for UFC 290. The guys he's fighting on the Alaskan scene are just absolute trash. Like these guys are, I don't even think they train. I bet you they just go out there and do something, and he's able to beat them. I don't know if he's going to be able to do what he does to the Alaskan guys, to Raul Rosas Jr., but either way, that's a big line for an 18-year-old coming off his first loss. Are you able to get behind that?
No, definitely not. Especially, like you said, man, with the age, 18 years old, coming off of a loss, you don't know how a kid, like he's still a kid, you don't know how he's going to respond to that loss, and like what's he been doing since then. I'm guessing training hard. He seems like he loves the sport and everything. But I kind of sense what the UFC is doing here with him. I mean, giving him Terrence, who, you know, was on the Ultimate Fighter, gets knocked out by Kai Kara-France in 30 seconds, gets beat by Cameron Simon. And he's not like a guy that's going to go out there and try to, I guess he might try to strike with Raul Rosas Jr. because Raul Rosas isn't really the best striker, but it's kind of a stylistic matchup that could favor Rosas here because Terrence Mitchell, you know, he's got a lot of his wins by finish, but on the ground, I mean, Raul Rosas Jr., everybody knows what his game plan is going to be here. So in theory, I think this is probably a layup for Raul Rosas Jr., or at least the UFC wants it to be. He just got to fix a few problems and keep getting better. I think this is a good opportunity for him to work on some of that stuff and kind of show that, you know, maybe he is UFC level. And if he can't beat Terrence Mitchell, we got to sit down and have a big talk about what we do going forward, because if you don't beat him here, it's just bad news down the road. But I think he does get it done. -750 though. Don't put that in your parlay. Probably just lay off this one altogether.
Yeah, I mean, this is a clear like get right spot for Raul Rosas. That was a tough fight against Christian Rodriguez. Like, Christian Rodriguez is a solid opponent. It's nothing to really hang your head about to lose to him. It's just the fact that he was this hyped up guy. I believe he was like -200 something going in there against Rodriguez. So a disappointing outcome for him. This is a layup for him against Terrence Mitchell, but at the same time, Terrence Mitchell is dangerous for like the first minute and a half, 2 minutes. Like, he went out there and took down Cameron Simon pretty easily. And Simon handled it really well. Another young kid that has a lot of promise and pretty much just reversed it, was able to threaten some submissions, and then I eventually ground and pounded him out. I would expect Raul Rosas to be able to weather the storm and eventually get into a dominant position and maybe get a submission or a TKO. But he is 18 coming off his first loss. If he gets taken down right away and he's like, oh shit, like what's going on here? Maybe he could get finished early. I mean, you never know. But yeah, like you said, I would probably not throw it in a parlay. -750 is not really getting you any much value like added to a parlay. It's probably just better to lay off of that one. We'll see what the Rosas Jr. inside the distance looks like, or maybe a sub prop. You're probably not getting that great of a price on that either. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe just one to lay off and watch it. But Rosas is the pick for sure. Lightweight bout, Daniel Zellhuber coming in at minus 255 against Christos Giagos, sitting at plus 205. Over under 2.5 rounds, plus 110 for the over, minus 140 for the under. Daniel Zellhuber, 13-1, coming off his first UFC win against Lando Venata. He's 4-1 in his last 5. He lost his debut to Trey Ogden. He's 24 years old, going against the 33-year-old Christos Giagos, who had picked up a big win his last time out. And you see the 3-2 in his last 5. He's kind of an up-and-down fighter, but he has fought some pretty good competition. Losses to Thiago Moises, Arman Sarukian, Charles Oliveira, Drakkar Klose. I mean, he's not losing to bums by any mean. Last time out, got a win over Ricky Glenn, first-round knockout. So maybe a little turning point in his career. 33 years of age, though. I mean, not sure what his ceiling is. Probably not that high. Daniel Zellhuber looked good his last time out, but at the same time, I'm like, it's Lando Venata. Lando's a veteran. You're kind of getting a similar type guy here with Christos Giagos. I mean, but he's a bigger favorite than he was last time out. So that's what kind of makes me hesitant on Zellhuber at like minus 250. You think he pulls it off, or you're giving Giagos a chance?
I do. I think Zellhuber gets it done. I know he had that first fight in the UFC that was rough for him and kind of dropped the ball against Trey Ogden, really. But we saw him fight live against Lando, and Lando has a lot of losses on his record, but he's fighting Zellhuber, who's a great striker. Lando's also never been finished in his whole entire UFC career. He's been subbed one time, I think, in his debut, but other than that, never been knocked out. And Zellhuber was really close. He gets the knockdown, had him hurt, and was really touching him and outstruck him by a pretty decent amount. I think Zellhuber's kickboxing and his size, being 6'1" at 155, helps him a lot, especially in fights like this against, other guys who are okay strikers, but their game plan is going to be to try to get the fight to the ground. I think his length, his strength, and using the kicks really makes it hard for guys like Christos to get in close to him, to get the takedown where he's going to want this fight. So if it stays on the feet, I think it's going to look like the Lando Venata fight. I think Zellhuber is just going to pick him apart. The only difference is we've seen Christos be knocked out or TKO'd by Arman Sarukian. If Zellhuber lands the shots like he was against Venata, I wouldn't be surprised if you see him get a finish here. I do think Zellhuber, pretty high ceiling, especially with that style. Like, he is fun to watch. He's really, really technical with the kickboxing. He's just, the key for him here is just keep it on the feet, because if he does, there's not a lot of guys like Christos and Lando Venata who are going to outstrike him by any means. Like, he's got the size and he's got the skills. So if he keeps it there, I think he gets it done. I think the fight will spend the majority of it on the feet. And for that reason, I'm going to stick with Daniel Zellhuber to get it done.
Yeah.
Not sure about the price, though. Not sure about the price.
It's just a tough price. I think he does win. And to go with the fact that Giagos is losing to like pretty much only good competition, he's not really beating any like good competition. Like his wins are Ricky Glenn, Sean Soriano, Carlton Minus, Damir Hadzovic. Like, these aren't any like top of the league guys. And this is his second stint in the UFC. He was cut earlier. He lost to Gilbert Burns, Chris Wade, and then came back, made his second stint debut against Charles Oliveira. So, yeah. I mean, he is dangerous, though, in the first round. He's going to put a pace on you early. So, I don't know, maybe even look to bet Zellhuber after the first round to see how this one plays out. But either way, he'll be the pick for me. He did get a win over Lucas Almeida on the Contender Series, which looks pretty good. But, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think he's a young kid who's probably still improving as well. So, I mean, you would expect him to make leaps every time he goes into the octagon, getting more comfortable and using his skills. So I think he probably wins, but it's just the price is a little touchy for me. I'm not the biggest fan of it. Featherweight bout here, Kyle the Monster Nelson coming in at plus 210 against Fernando Padilla, coming in at minus 260. Over under 2.5 rounds, plus 155 for the over, minus 185 for the under. Padilla, second fight in the UFC here. His UFC debut was against Julian Erosa. Got a first-round knockout in that one. Some would say early stoppage, but either way, he landed damn near 2 knockdowns within like 10 seconds. So probably not a great stoppage, but not a bad stoppage considering everything that went on with that. He has some decent losses. You could look at it on the regional scene. One to Dan Ige. He's got a win over Derek Minner, ex-UFC guy. I lost to Spike Carlisle. So he's fought some pretty solid competition even before coming into the UFC. For Kyle Nelson, 2-2-1 in his last 5. That draw was to Do Ho Choi, and that was kind of a gift of a draw. He probably lost that one, but they had that point deduction. And then he gets a fight in Canada, UFC 289, gets a win over Blake Bilder, which at the time looked like a good win. But then you look and see Blake Bilder's only win in the UFC is against Shane Young, and you're like, all right, never mind. That's not the great, not like a win that ages the best. So he's 2-4-1 in the UFC. I mean, he's coming in here. I would kind of want to say to get booted out against Fernando Padilla. Mexican Independence Day. You're getting a kid in Padilla who first round knockout in his debut. Looks like a good matchup for him. Do you think he pulls it off, or can Kyle the Monster pull off the upset?
Yeah, for Kyle Nelson, like you said, with the last fight against Bilder, it's a good win, but at the same time, Bilder's only beaten Shane Young, who's probably getting cut by the UFC. If you look at Kyle Nelson's record, he's losing to guys like Jai Herbert and Quarantillo, who both, with Jai, he's long and lanky as well, like Padilla, has the good striking, he's accurate, and he just couldn't really, figure it out with Jai. And for Padilla, he's long, he's a sniper. He showed that against Erosa. Great striking, but he gets the majority of his wins on the mat. So if Kyle Nelson wants to get a takedown here, he's going to have to watch the neck. If he wants to take this thing to the ground, which I think is his only path to victory, he's going to be in danger too when he's on the ground. So all things to consider, I think this is Padilla here. I don't know if people are, thinking Kyle Nelson after the last one against Bilder has a chance to do it here, but I think Padilla is a guy that has a ton of room to grow into a really good fighter in the UFC. I think his ceiling's really high. I think he's dangerous wherever this fight goes. And this is just the style that does not favor Kyle Nelson, because I think Kyle Nelson's a little slower at this point. His head movement's not that great. He gets hit. I mean, his numbers, he gets hit with over 4.5 significant strikes per minute. Well, he's only landed 3. So, yeah, man, for Padilla, I think he's riding that good momentum and that confidence after the Erosa win. And I think he can go out there and he can touch Kyle Nelson. If Nelson wants to take it to the ground, I think he could find the sub here too.
Yeah, it's somehow Kyle Nelson finds a way to make every fight boring. And in this one, I think that's probably his best path to victory is like make it boring. Because like you said, on the ground, Padilla's got the submission game. On the feet, he's going to be longer. I think he's got better hands. Kyle Nelson, I think path to victory is to make it gross and throw him up against the cage, use your strength. I mean, he's bounced from 155 and 145. So, I mean, he's a big, strong guy, 5'11", and he's strong. He's still going to be shorter and not as long as Padilla, but he is strong and fairly big for the weight class. So I think that's the only path to victory for Kyle Nelson. Padilla probably going to be much snappier on the feet and just overall higher ceiling for sure. Like, I hope this is Kyle Nelson's last fight in the UFC, to be honest. But Padilla, I think he's going to be my pick. Not crazy about the price, considering Kyle Nelson can make it close. But, yeah, I'm going to take him for the pick. Strawweight bout here. Lupe Godinez coming in at minus 425 against Elise Reed, sitting at plus 325. Over under 2.5 rounds, minus 205 for the over, plus 170 for the under. Lupe Godinez, 30 years of age. So is Elise Reed. And this one, 10-3 for Lupe Godinez, 4-1 in her last 5. It's an interesting matchup. There was a lot of cancellations with this one. We ended up, Lupe Godinez was supposed to fight Sam Hughes. Elise Reed was supposed to fight Cynthia Calvillo. Calvillo pulls out. Hughes pulls out. So then they end up fighting each other. And Godinez, big favorite in this one. She's usually a pretty sizable favorite, but a lot of times she can just make it close. She just decides that she's like Floyd Mayweather in there when she's really not. She has a great path to victory in this one to just take her down and use her wrestling. She has great wrestling. She's got great takedowns. She's got great top pressure. She's got great ground and pound. That is Elise Reed's weakness. I hope to God she goes in there and shoots takedowns, because if she doesn't, she's just giving Elise Reed a way into this fight, because Elise Reed does have some decent striking. And she's always struggled with the takedowns. Sajar Eubanks, Sam Hughes, Luke Boonmay, and any fight that she's able to keep it on the feet, she's in. So Lupe Godinez, you're minus 425. If you're betting on Lupe Godinez, you better hope to God she goes for takedowns, because if not, it's going to be a close fight. What are you thinking of this one?
Yeah, that's what makes it so greasy about it, is because Lupe is always this big favorite because I think because of the grappling and the wrestling, and then there's fights she goes out there and barely uses it. I mean, against Cynthia Calvillo, I think she lost that fight, if I'm being honest. The striking numbers were in favor of Cynthia Calvillo. Lupi Godinez didn't land a single takedown. Calvillo was the one taking her down. She's lucky to get the win there. And I'm pretty sure she was a decent-sized favorite there as well. Beats Ducote. She did outstrike Ducote and looked pretty good on the feet for most of that fight. But again, only one takedown when I think the path to getting it to the ground there was there. She just decided not to use it. So if she does that against Reed, Reed's not the best striker or fighter by any means, but she's solid enough to where she will be in close fights with you if you don't go and try to go back to your bread and butter. Like if Lupi Godinez decides not to grapple here, I could see a split decision. And that's what makes it so, nasty and greasy about taking her at this big of a favorite, because she just doesn't have the best fight IQ, or she doesn't make fights easy on herself where she could. Like if she goes out there and decides to grapple and wrestle Elise Reed, she could very well look like a minus 500 favorite. But there's a chance she looks like a pick 'em here too. So yeah, I'm gonna pick Lupi. I think if she has a good team around her, they're probably telling her the same exact stuff that you and I are talking about right now. Elise Reed, like you said, she struggles with the takedowns. Once it gets to the ground, Loma Luke Boonmi gets the sub. She gets TKO'd by Sam Hughes. I mean, if she gets taken down, she finds herself in a lot of trouble. So I'm going to stick with Lupi for the pick. Betting wise, this is women's MMA. This is that total, fight where you could look up and see Elise Reed having a lot of success because Lupi's just not doing what she should. So it's greasy.
The crazy thing is, like, Lupi, you put Lupi at minus 425, and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense if she's going to use all of her skills. But then she just doesn't go out there and do it. So she's lost as a minus 360 favorite to Angela Hill, minus 225 to Luana Carolina, and a minus 285 to Jessica Penne. Those are all fights she lost as a big favorite. So, and she was minus 275 against Cynthia Calvillo, and she won a split decision. A lot of people thought she lost that. So odds are, she usually goes to a decision. She's only got 2 finishes on her record, 2 subs in the first round, no knockouts. Elise Reed can be finished on the ground. So I'm like, there is definitely a world where if Lupi takes her down, she could ground and pound her out, or even find a submission. So I think Lupi gets it done. I think she's valid for a minus 425 in this spot. But if she doesn't use her skills, then then she's closer to a pick'em. So that's always the gamble you're taking on Lupi. I would maybe even look at a Lupi Godinez inside the distance ticket just to see what that is. Like if you're getting some plus money on that, might be good way to go about it. Because I do think she can find a finish if she gets her to the ground. But yeah, she's the pick for me. Middleweight bout here. Roman Kopylov sitting at minus 320 against Josh Fremd, stepping in at plus 245. Over under 1.5 rounds. Minus 190 for the over, plus 160 for the under. Roman Kopylov 3-2 in his last 5. Josh Fremd 3-2 in his last 5 as well. You see the height difference there. 6'4" for Fremd, 6 feet for Roman Kopylov. That's what it is on Tapology, but I think he's closer to like 6'2". Yeah. Just watching his last fight with Hiberio, they got Hiberio listed at like 6'1", and he was taller than Hiberio. So I'm like, I don't think that's very accurate. Either way, the reach is pretty similar. Fremd coming off the big win against Jamie Pickett, where he missed weight in that one, and it looks like maybe the weight cut was a little rough on him because he said he didn't really feel like himself in there. Gets a decision win. Everyone was looking for the inside the distance there. Didn't happen. But his UFC career 2-2, and he's hoping to get above 500 here. Kopylov came into the UFC, lost his first 2, and now he's on a 3-fight win streak. Just coming off that big head kick knockout to Hiberio, UFC 291. Both guys fought fairly recently. And in this one, they were both replacements. So was it Anthony Hernandez was supposed to fight, or was it Chris Curtis was supposed to fight Anthony Hernandez, and then Anthony Hernandez was supposed to fight Roman Kopylov, and then Kopylov is now fighting Josh Fremd. So a lot of replacements, like I said. What are you thinking in this one?
Yeah, this is interesting because you look at Josh Fremd's last fight against Pickett, and I think a lot of people thought he was going to run through Pickett because Pickett's looked so bad in the UFC at times, and Josh Fremd, has some decent grappling. He submitted Cedriques Dumas. I fully expected him to just kind of wear down Jamie Pickett, find a submission, grind it out. But it was Jamie Pickett who landed 2 takedowns to Josh Fremd's none. So I don't know how good Josh Fremd actually is. Like he's kind of been up and down. I mean, you look at the loss to Trayshawn Gore where he about got his head popped off, got taken down 8 times by Anthony Hernandez when in his debut, and then beats Cedriques Dumas, who kind of got exposed as a fraud in that first fight. Even though he bounced back against a not so good opponent. And then, the win over Jamie Pickett wasn't a bad win per se, but at the same time, like he only landed 31 strikes in that fight and Jamie Pickett landed 14. Like it was just a disgusting fight. Roman Kopylov, on the other hand, on a huge 3-fight knockout winning streak after losing his first 2 in the UFC. Now, at first, he got taken down in his first few fights, but since then has had, a phenomenal takedown defense. I think he's sitting at 90, 91 or 90% takedown defense in the UFC right now. And everybody knows on the feet, Roman Kopylov can knock you out. He hits hard. He mixes up his strikes really well. I mean, he's got that kickboxing style to where you can tell he's been doing this a long, long time. And he's just on another level than some of these guys. And Claudio Ribeiro, kind of a big bruising brawler type of guy. And that head kick that Roman Kopylov landed was one of the best head kicks I've ever seen in the UFC. He just kind of out-volumed Puna Soriano and, beat the brakes off him until he found the finish in the second round. And same thing with Alicio Di They got the round 3 finish. So Roman Kopylov can fight for all 3 rounds. I saw signs of Josh Fremd getting pretty damn tired against Jamie Pickett. And you mix in Roman Kopylov's body kicks, the leg kicks, I think it's another recipe for Fremd starting to slow down and Roman Kopylov finding another big finish here, if I'm being honest. I got to go with Roman. I really like Roman Kopylov. I really do. I'm on his side in the last 3 fights where he's found the finish. Maybe it's a little biased for me here, but I do think he beats a guy like Josh Fremd.
Yeah, I think he does too. I think if Fremd wants to win this fight, he's got to look for some cage control, look for some takedowns, because if you're going to stand and strike with Kopylov, I think he pieces up Josh Fremd. Not to say that Fremd can't catch him, but I mean, you look at how Kopylov has lost, like it's just on the ground, basically. I mean, he's a great kickboxer, and he's pretty technical with it too. I mean, the way he set up the head kick was really nice. Josh Fremd hasn't showed me anything like great as far as the striking goes, technically. I think Kopylov just breaks him down, finds some kind of hidden knockout, and if he doesn't, I mean, he's got the volume to go 3 rounds and just keep the pace on him. So he's my pick for sure. Flyweight bout here. Edgar Chairez coming in at minus 245 against Daniel Lacerda, a.k.a. Daniel Da Silva, coming in at plus 205. Over, under 1.5 rounds, plus 170 for the over, minus 210 for the under. Under is always going to be steamed in a Daniel Da Silva fight. 1-4 in his last 5. But if you look at him in the UFC, he's 0-4. But the way he fights, that's why he's getting another fight in this one. Always must-see TV when Daniel Da Silva steps in the octagon. Edgar Chairez, second fight in the UFC here. First fight was a debut. UFC 290 against Tatsuro Taira, who's a big dog in that one, and put on a pretty good showing considering the betting line. But either way, took a loss there. Hoping to bounce back here. See the ages very similar. Frames pretty similar. This should be a fun fight. I mean, always a fun fight with Daniel Da Silva. Edgar Chairez is not some slouch by any means, but Daniel Da Silva is always dangerous in that first round. So it's like you're usually better off just betting the other guy after the first round, because Da Silva, as much as he gets finished, or he's been finished straight 4 times, it's not like he's getting cold cocked. It's not like he's chinny or anything, or he just doesn't have any submission defense. It's like he just fights wild and he just gasses out. If you can withstand that early onslaught, you're going to eventually find the finish. I think that's what CJ Vergara did in the last fight. He took a huge, he got knocked down like 2 or 3 times, but he just knew as long as I keep running around and stay alive, like eventually this guy's going to gas out. He did, gets the finish in the second round. So I don't know. I mean, Da Silva at plus 200 is always like kind of looking good considering he get that first round finish. What are you thinking of this one?
Yeah, dude. This could be fight of the night. Like, this is 2 fighters who are going to stand and trade shots with each other. And I think in Daniel Lacerda's last fight, CJ Vergara is pretty damn lucky the fight didn't get stopped because he was knocked down over and over. Shaky legs would get knocked down again. Like some refs would have stepped in and made it a standing TKO, or after the last time he dropped would have called the fight. So Lacerda, I mean, he's live for that first round finish at all times. He can do it on the mat. I mean, he had some submission attempts against CJ Vergara early too. He always landed a knockdown to where he could get a club and sub. He can put the lights out. I mean, some of these guys he's fighting are lucky that they're tough. I think Edgar Chairez is tough as well. I think his chin's going to be pretty good. Didn't really have to show it much against Tatsuro Taira, who's not really the best striker, but he showed he can survive on the ground too. So it's going to be a dogfight for either guy. Edgar Chairez, pretty good submission game himself. If you watch his tape, he's gotten 6 submissions on his record. He's been submitted a couple of times. So there's another area you could maybe see Lacerda sneaking in some kind of choke early. But as far as who's going to be there in the middle of the second and third round, it's going to be Chairez. He's going to have the gas tank to do it. He's going to be swinging later in the fight as well. And if Lacerda hasn't fixed that gas tank, which would be kind of hard to do in 5 months, I think he's going to be in serious trouble if he doesn't find the first round finish. I like Lacerda. I like watching him. I'll tune in every time he fights. But Chairez is a guy who you could look up and might go on a little win streak here. Like, he's pretty skilled all the way around, and he's really tough. So if you can't finish him, you better be able to go 3 rounds and at least win a couple of those rounds. And I just don't think Lacerda has the ability to do that. So I'm going to pick Chairez for the pick. I will be watching for that first round finish for Lacerda, see if he can finally get it. Betting wise, if you're on Lacerda, I mean, see what kind of number you get in the first round. You never know. But I think Chairez probably does win the fight.
Yeah, I mean, that was the longest fight of Daniel Lacerda's career his last time out. So maybe the gas tank's getting a little bit better. But
he wasn't there in the second, though. He wasn't there at all.
CJ, I just don't think he has quite the finishing ability to put him away that early, and he was just trying to recover from everything. But yeah, I think Chairez having been knocked out. He's been submitted twice. Lacerda's got some good submissions. I mean, you saw that that calf slicer he put CJ Vergara in, and I was like, hold my breath there. But he's going to be dangerous on the ground. But I think Chairez knows that he just can't get finished early. Eventually, he'll find it. At the same time, I'm like, this is just a fun fight to take Lacerda at the plus money. If you're going to bet Chairez, I would either bet him round 1 finish or just live bet him after the first, because Lacerda could either gas in the first and get finished in the first, or he's going to win the first round. So, yeah, that's the way I'd go about it. For the pick, I'm going to go Chairez because I do think he's durable enough to withstand it. But always a fun way to go about it, just taking Daniel Da Silva. Flyweight bout here. Tracy Cortez coming in at minus 120 against Jasmine Jasudavicius, coming in at minus 110. Over under 2.5 rounds. Minus 350 for the over, plus 250 for the under. Tracy Cortez back in action. Will she actually make it to the octagon? We will see. But the last time we saw her was May of 2022. So it's been over a year. She had the fight with Hebaz last year, December, and then it got canceled the night before. Jasudavicius, 34 years of age for her, but she has come into the UFC and she looked pretty good. 3-1 to be exact. Her only loss to Natalia Silva, coming off the big win as an underdog in UFC 289 in Canada against Miranda Maverick. She is now a ranked flyweight. So she's getting a ranked opponent here in Tracy Cortez. It's a good fight for women's flyweight. Should be a very even matchup. You see it by the line. Who are you taking in this one?
Yeah, it's tough. It should be a pretty even fight. 2 girls with similar styles. For Jasudavicius, though, I've liked what I've seen out of her. The win over Maverick was impressive just because, she was such a big dog there, and she showed that, she's tough to take down. She's been working on the grappling defense. Everybody knows she's got good wrestling credentials herself. Like, she will get takedowns against girls. Her striking looked pretty crisp in the fight against Maverick. And even the fight before that, like with Gabrielle Fernandez, she knew the path to victory was to take her down. She did it 4 times and just dominated in that aspect and got the decision victory. Her only loss, Natalia Silva, kind of understandable after you watch Natalia Silva compete in the UFC. So, she's fought decent level competition. I mean, Miranda Maverick, definitely her best win. For Tracy Cortez, I mean, she has all decisions on her record as well. Both these girls have decisions. I think both girls, same game plan. Tracy Cortez is known for her wrestling. Her striking's not super powerful or that clean yet. She averages nearly 3 takedowns per fight with a 48% takedown accuracy, which is basically the same exact number as Jasudavicius. So I think on paper, both of these fighters are super even. I like Jasudavicius's, I guess, reach and her size difference is she's going to be a little bit taller with a 3-inch reach advantage. I do like that when you're talking about two grapplers fighting each other. And if this fight plays out on the feet, because neither girl can get it down, I think Jasudavicius has the slight edge with the striking. I think it's a little cleaner. I think she's, been working on that striking a little bit. I think the reach is going to help her here. And Tracy Cortez, we haven't seen her since Melissa Gatto. Yeah, it was her last fight over a year ago. So coming back into this fight, you look at her Instagram and read up on stories. She's kind of been going through a lot of stuff outside of the octagon. I know she's been itching to get back in here, but there's going to be a little bit of ring rust there. Jasudavicius is fresh off of a big win. I'm just leaning Jasudavicius aside here. I think if the wrestling cancels each other out, I think Jasmine's probably a little polished on the feet for Tracy Cortez.
Yeah, it's a really even matchup. Honestly, the best bet on this one, I think, is to take it that it ends in a split decision. But it's probably pretty subjective as far as, the judges go, because neither fighter really puts any volume on you. They're going to look for takedowns. There's going to be a lot of change of position. But if Jasmine does get on top, she's pretty heavy on top. Like, she gets you down and you're not really going anywhere. I mean, 11 minutes of control time to Fernandez. She was able to take down Miranda Maverick, gets 7 minutes of control time in that one. So I don't know. I mean, if Tracy Cortez ends up on her back, it's not really like a spot she's been a lot in her career. I don't know how she's going to deal with that. But also on the feet, the concern for Jasudavicius is she doesn't inflict a lot of damage. It's like when she gets you down on the ground, she doesn't land a lot of ground and pound. I mean, she has a negative strike differential, which I always hate to see. A lot of that is due to her loss to Natalia Silva. But even in the fight she won. She outstruck Miranda Maverick by 4 significant strikes. She got outstruck by Fernandez, even though she took her down 4 times, 11 minutes control time. She's not inflicting a ton of damage, which how they judge fights nowadays is like very much how they do. So that's tough, but neither does Tracy Cortez. I mean, she doesn't inflict a lot of damage either. So, and even the wins, it's like Maria Agapova, Vanessa Mello, Justine Kish, Stephanie Egger. Gatto win, looked good at the time, but then she just lost to Ariane Lipsky. So it's like, how great is that? She's been off for a long time. I like Jasudavicius in this one as well. I think she's got the momentum coming into this one. And but Tracy Cortez is good. I don't know if she'll be as good as she was before. It's not like she was anything great, but if she's made improvements over the years she's been off, I would expect her to win this fight, but I don't think she's going to be ready to take on Jasudavicius, who is bigger. She has great top pressure, and I just see this as like a wrestling match, honestly. So I'll go with Jasudavicius for the pick. It's a close one, though. It's a close one. Lightweight bout, Charlie Campbell coming in at -400, making his debut against Alex Reyes, coming at +300. The man is back. Over-under 1.5 rounds, +175 for the over, -215 for the under. 36 years of age for Alex Reyes. And the last time he was in the octagon was 2017, September 16th, 2017. Nearly 6 years ago. Nearly 6 years ago. He's had a cancellation in 2018, Nazareth Hackpress. He had a fight booked with Trevor Peake in February of 2023. Withdrew. Supposed to fight Natan Levy. Natan Levy withdrew. And now he gets Charlie Campbell. So, I mean, what a roller coaster for Alex Reyes, because he's been off for a long time. Sounds like he's been doing a lot of coaching, and that's where he's been spending a lot of his time. Charlie Campbell making his UFC debut, fought in the Contender Series against Chris Duncan. Nearly had Chris Duncan out of there, and then gets dropped by Chris Duncan and gets out of there. So since then, he's went over to CFFC and got a first-round knockout. Now he gets a UFC debut here as a big favorite. But it's against Alex Reyes, who hasn't fought in 6 years. So kind of makes sense. What are you thinking on this one?
Yeah, it's always tough to take a -400 in their debut. Reyes, though, the 6 years is just strange to see. Like, you see a lot of times fighters maybe 2-3 years max lay off and then come back into the UFC. And it's like, oh, okay, they've been training, they've been getting better, but 6 years is like unheard of. Like, that makes me really, really worried for Alex Reyes, because that's a long time without being hit by somebody in the UFC octagon in an actual fight, especially a guy like Charlie Campbell, who hits pretty damn hard. You know, when he gets cracked, like, how are you going to react to that? You're not used to it. So I hate that for Alex Reyes. I mean, if you watch Alex Reyes in some of his fights, the guy can crack too. I mean, he has 9 knockout wins on his record. But at this age too, it's like you went from being 30 years old fighting Mike Perry to 36 without a fight, like in between. Like, that just screams red flag to me. I like that Charlie Campbell is fighting, you know, with guys like Aljamain Sterling and Merab. He's out of that camp. He's got good coaching. He's got good training partners. And, you know, the loss to Chris Duncan, I think he got a little, you know, I guess rushed in there when he saw he had him hurt, ended up taking that right hand and getting finished. But other than that, you know, in the last 2 to 3 years, watching him on the regional scene, like, he's looked pretty good, and it's pretty evident that he has a lot of power in his hands too. And the way he does it, like, there's some fights he's kind of brawling and gets that finish, but there's other fights as of recent, you know, he looks a little more calm and composed. And so if he can just land that one big shot on Reyes and just have him at least hurt or gain the respect of Reyes with a big shot, I think from then on it's just going to be a game changer inside the octagon, and Charlie Campbell's probably going to find the finish. I wouldn't be surprised if it's first or second round too.
Yeah, I mean, the one UFC fight that Alex Reyes has knocked out first round, a minute 19 in by Mike Perry. So the Reyes chins aren't exactly mythical by any means. Charlie Campbell, like you said, trains out of Longo and Weidman MMA. Tough guys. He's had 2 Bellator fights, won them both. I think he comes in here, probably finds an early finish as well, but, you know, minus 400 debut, not always the greatest. Yeah. I do think he wins. I just don't really see how Alex Reyes comes back here and, like, has success. You know, you take that long off. It sounds to me like he's been coaching a lot, and people have kind of been encouraging to go back and fight in the UFC. So I don't know. It's like, if other people are encouraging you to do it, I don't know. It's like not really encouraging to me as a bettor. You know, it'd be like you gotta want it yourself to go back there and do it. So yeah, Charlie Campbell's gonna be the pick for me. Just a weird fight overall.
I honest to God might take Charlie Campbell by finish in the first 60 seconds. It could take one punch with Reyes, honestly. Yeah. So just as a fun little bet, might look at it.
He knocked down Chris Duncan in the first like 60 seconds anyway. Mm-hmm. So yeah,
it's very powerful.
Should be probably a quick fight. Maybe just look for the under too.
Yep.
First fight of the night, strawweight bout here. Josephine Knutsson coming in at minus 460 against Mann, making her UFC debut. Both ladies making their UFC debut, coming in at plus 335. Over under 2.5 rounds, minus 200 for the over, plus 165 for the under. We just saw Josephine Knutsson a couple weeks ago. We just broke her down on the Contender Series. She fought Isis for Beak, got a win by decision, nearly finished her a couple times. But Dana White didn't like that, and she got the decision win. Didn't get a contract, but eventually she gets booked to fight Yasmin Lucindo here. Yasmin Lucindo pulls out, in steps Mann, who also did not get a contract on the Contender Series last year because she got knocked out in the second round by Bruna Brazil. Since then, gets a decision win in the LFA against Amber Brown. And she's coming in here as an underdog against Josephine Knutsson. You think she could pull it off?
I don't know. I wasn't high on her going into that Contender Series fight. And you look at some of her fights, man, she's 5 foot tall, but she looks so much smaller than a lot of her opponents. You know, not that big of a reach. For Knutsson, you know, in the Contender Series fight, I was almost shocked they didn't give her a contract because first it's women's MMA and she performed pretty well, like didn't get the finish, but performed well. And, you know, they've been giving everybody contracts, and to see her name not called was a little shocking, but it worked out for her. They're bringing her back in against Verbeek, who's another good kickboxer. She held her own. She had her hurt in the first round and did pretty good work the whole entire fight. Like, she was landing with ease against Verbeek. Showed good takedown defense, showed up against the cage like she's a pretty strong girl. And overall, I think against Mann, she's going to be the more well-rounded fighter by a pretty decent amount here. Mann, you watch her, She wants to get fights on the ground. She does have some pretty good top pressure. She'll land some ground and pound. And overall, man, if she needs to get the fight to the mat to win, and I think that's the same thing here. Like, she's got to get Knutsson to the ground if she wants a chance, because being 5 foot tall, not the greatest reach, not the greatest striking, girls like Knutsson are just going to have a field day with her. And I mean, we saw it against Bruna Brazil in that fight. You know, that shot that put her down was nasty. Bruna Brazil, decent striking, kind of reminds me of Knutsson a little bit with the kickboxing. So I think Knutsson does get it done. I don't see the best path to victory for Mann here, especially if she's not getting any takedowns.
Yeah, I gotta figure Josephine Knutsson comes in here with a chip on her shoulder. Like, she had a chip on her shoulder. She fought on the road to the UFC, which is that tournament for to get a contract to the UFC. She fought on that. She got a win, and it was a decision win. She goes on to the Contender Series. She wants a finish. She almost has it a couple times. Doesn't get it. She doesn't get the contract. And then I feel like she comes into this one. She's like, I want to get a finish. It's my UFC debut. I haven't been getting finishes. She's only had one finish in her entire career. Mann, her only loss is by knockout. So I think Mann is outgunned on the feet. She's going to look to get takedowns, but even on the ground, she doesn't really inflict a ton of damage. And she can get taken down as well. Watch that fight with Amber Brown. She had some success getting the takedowns. Knutsson can go for the takedowns as well. I think she's just got her outgunned in every aspect of mixed martial arts. So I think Knutsson gets the win, stays undefeated. But, I mean, it's heavy chalk, and a lot of weird stuff can happen here. So wouldn't go too crazy on it, but I do think she gets the win.
How do you go from Lucindo to Mann?
I know, right?
In a couple of weeks. That's quite the difference there.
Yeah, I mean, she was probably stepping into a tough fight against Yasmin Lucindo, and now she's a big favorite against Mann. So, yeah, I think she pulls it off probably pretty easily. I would maybe even look at like a KO prop for her. Probably get some juicy stuff there, considering she's only got one win by finish. And it is a possibility because she had Isis Verbeek on skates a couple of times with that head kick too. Mann got knocked out by a head kick, so it'll be there. It'll be there for sure. But those are the picks and predictions for Noche UFC. That's how you say it. Title fight main event, Grasso Shevchenko. It's going to be a 7 p.m. Eastern start time. It's in the Vegas T-Mobile Arena. 11 fights. Good luck to everyone. If you want to get in on the bets, you can do that through the link in the description. That is the Double Leg Premium membership. Less than $1 a day. Get you every single UFC card every week. And we've had a ton of straight weeks for the UFC. So if you've been getting on that, you're getting your money's worth for sure. At the Double Leg on Instagram, stick to the free plays too on there. Those have been hitting. Stay up to date with everything there. At HeyJod Picks on the medias for me. Where can they find you?
All social medias at the Parlay MMA.
All right. Well, next video, we'll see you recapping Noche UFC. But till then, good luck to everyone. The Double Leg signing out.